My name is Kiki LaFleur. Thank you for joining me on Kiki's Self-Mastery. So I was my own worst enemy, okay? Until I learned this really, really important word, and that was no. Let me just get it straight to the point. No. I know it may seem like it's easier said than done, because a lot of people are like, really? I can do that. That's fine. Or really? It was that? Because in most cases, you think you can say no. You really do think you can. But it really takes the dark side of you to come forth and center in order for you to stop people pleasing. I'm gonna be honest with you. If you're not tapped into your dark side, if you're not tapped into that part of you that truly do not care of what anybody has to say, what anybody thinks, it's not as easy as you think. Now, I think it's sometimes hard for us to reflect on whether or not we are in our own way, but in reality, while being on this earth, while you're growing and learning and evolving, there really isn't a blueprint other than what our parents told us, other than what we've been programmed to learn. And majority of the time, we think we know it all. I'm be honest with you. We really do. We think we know it all, especially as a youth. Once you get to a point where you're kind of like on your own, sometimes it's hard to listen to other people, and sometimes it's even harder to listen to yourself and using that as a guide. But especially because we aren't taught to listen to ourselves and learn what works for us and what doesn't work for us in a point where in a way that we are in sync. What do I mean by that? So the one thing that for me, I was my own worst enemy, was saying no, which then led to people pleasing. Now, I didn't know I was a people pleaser, and that's what I mean when I say, like, we don't even know we're in our own way. Because for a very, very, very long time, I did not know I was a people pleaser. I would hear the words people pleasing, and I would automatically tell myself, that's not me. Like, I'm not a people pleaser. What? I would curse somebody out. Like, that's where I thought it meant as far as, like, people pleasing. Like, nobody can use me, take advantage of me. But in all reality, nah, not by a long shot. I was a people pleaser. Textbook. Okay? And now that I have grown and developed into the person that I am today, which means I understand the word no, which is the strongest word in the English vocabulary, and I use it on the daily, okay? And now that I understand that, I truly understand how I was people pleasing. And unfortunately, it was easier to be taken advantage of by the people closest to me. That's where the line was kind of blurred as far as people pleasing is concerned. With a stranger, it's easier to kind of sometimes realize if you're being taken advantage of. But when it comes to someone that is super close to you, your relative or sibling or even children, and definitely your significant other, most definitely your significant other, the lines are blurred. And because of that, you get taken advantage of over and over and over again. And this chat is to kind of give you some insight on, one, whether or not you are a people pleaser, and whether or not you do use the word no in your vocabulary on a continuous basis, and how to maneuver and how to pay attention to when people are taking your kindness for weakness. That's what this chat is about. So if you're interested in that, and if you're interested in personal growth and personal development and self-mastery, this channel is for you. So feel free to go ahead and subscribe, like, thumbs up, do all that good stuff, okay? Comment down below, because I definitely want to chat with you guys. So I didn't know I was a people pleaser, but in my relationship, boy, I tell you, I was a sucker, okay? And it wasn't until I was with a narcissist, which was my last relationship at this moment. When I tell you, it woke me up. Like, being with the narcissist, it really woke me up to realize how much of a people pleaser I was. And it reminded me to go in my Rolodex of relationships and realize how many people that I have dealt with that literally were very similar to that one person. And how much I allowed myself to take in so much pain because I didn't know how to say no. How do you know if you don't know how to say no? For example, especially in a relationship, I'm going to use that as an example again. If you want something, let's just say, for example, as a female to a male, let's just say, for example, just using an example just so that you can get what I'm saying, okay? You're struggling. Maybe you're struggling to pay a bill. Let's just say your gas bill coming up, and you can do everything else, but you can't do the gas bill. Maybe you just can't do any of your bills, but you're making do, but you would love some help. And this person that you're seeing, let's just say that you guys are hanging out a lot. They're taking up a lot of your time. They're in your apartment. You chilling. You guys are cuddling and doing whatever, sharing each other fluids, things like that. But there's a part of you that want to ask for help. There's a part of you that is dying for help, but you don't know how to ask for that help. You feel like by asking for that help makes you look weak. You feel like it might cause a rip in the relationship, especially if it's new. But in the meantime, that person is busy asking you for whatever they need, and you're gladly giving it up, thinking that if you continue to play nice, if you give what they want, that they may eventually want to help you. Even maybe read your mind and say, hey, I see you're missing this in your fridge, or hey, you may need money for that. Just give it to you. Like, that's like the ideal, right? Like, especially as women, we just want a man in our lives to just come in and just say, hey, babe, here's just for the bills. Like, here's just to go buy groceries. Like, that's ideal. We want those things. And you just wish that Prince Charming would come in and just do those things for you. Now, this is an example. But they don't. And you bottle it in. And you bottle it all in. Now, this doesn't have to pertain to a male and a female. It could be a male and a female relationship, as far as a male is like holding his tongue and not to cause a rift. And in all reality, you're harboring all this stuff inside, and it's not necessarily making you mad or angry. It just makes you feel like it's unfair, and you're struggling because of it. And majority of the time, it's a cycle that continues. And sometimes it's a little bit of fear. You're afraid that if you do speak up and you ask for these things, it may have them look at you crazy, look at you a different way. They may never want to speak to you again. And like, all these things go through your mind, and you realize that you're willing to suffer by not saying anything at all. That's a part of people pleasing. I understand. I've been there. Learning to say no is so powerful because it puts you in a position, one, to love yourself. It puts you in a position to really know what you want when it comes to putting yourself first. And the reason why I say no as far as people pleasing is concerned is because you got to tell yourself no when it comes to those thoughts, when it comes to those doubts. You have to stop yourself in the tracks and say, no, I deserve to have these things. And if this person is with me, they need to be able to meet me. And I hate to use the word halfway because I don't want it to be confused with 50-50, because I don't believe in 50-50. But it's like, I at least need that person to see me for who I am and my needs are important to me. And I have to be able to stop these doubts, stop all these things that make me feel like I'm less than, and I need to be able to speak up. Saying no to yourself, most importantly than saying no to anyone else, is number one, because you will self-sabotage immediately. People pleasing has allowed me to suffer in ways that I cannot fathom. And the only reason why I got out of that was because of the self-love that I poured into myself. I stopped pouring into other people. I stopped giving myself away in ways that I wasn't comfortable. And I feel like once you learn to say no, once you learn that you are doing things that make you feel uncomfortable, and that's the other example. If you're uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form, you have to understand that this is a form of people pleasing. Period. I listened to a book, The Illusion of Money. I forget the author's name. I will probably post it up. There's one chapter, it's called The Tens. And it goes from 1 to 10. And anything that's a 1, you don't do. And it throughout the chapter, he kind of have you go through a lot of different things so you can feel out what is a 10 for you, what's a 7, what's a 5, what's a 1. And for me, I go hard or go home. That's my motto. That's the majority of things that I do in my life, especially now. And I listened to that chapter maybe about 5-6 times. And I started to just do things that made me feel like a 10. If it wasn't a 10 in my body, in my soul, in my spirit, I'm not doing it. That relates to relationships, friends, personal life, career. If it doesn't feel good in my body, I'm not doing it. If it doesn't make me feel like a 10, I'm not doing it. Why? Because then it will be a form of people pleasing. I'm doing something and sacrificing myself, my feelings, my emotion for other people's happiness. And a long time ago, I would have been all over that as far as like doing whatever to make people happy. And now I don't do it because my gauge system from 1 to 10 is so much stronger than it has ever been, that if it's an inkling, if I get a subtlety of it don't feel right in my spirit, I'm not doing it. And when I tell you I am free from the weight of everybody else and their BS and their whatever, and I don't have to deal with any of it. I literally have so much peace in my life because of it. Like, there's so many levels to people pleasing that you really got to do homework on yourself. You got to listen to books, you read books, whatever, however you get to the books. And you really have to start internalizing who you are at the core and using that as leverage to get you through this world that we are living on, called, this wonderful life that we chose to inhabit. And I promise you, like, once you go through the levels of checking off the box of what it is that you do that may people please, like, you start to realize how much easier your life is. You start to realize how much peace you have. You may get less phone calls. That's fine. You gotta be comfortable with yourself. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I love solitude. I love my own company, so it doesn't bother me because I get to work on everything that I want to work on. Like, that's the beauty of it. Like, nobody's pulling me left and right. Everything that I want to work on, all my heart desires, I have at my feet. Like, there's nothing I can't do because I've learned the word no. I've had a couple people recently like hit me up and say, hey, do you still do this? I'm like, no. Do you still do this? I'm like, no. Do you still no? It's only my aunt who asked me to do something. She's like, do you still do this? I was like, no, but why? And then she told me she wanted her makeup done. I was like, all right, I got you. Like, it's only because I want to do it from the kindness of my heart, because she gives to us as a family a lot. So for me, it's like, it's easy for me to give back to her. Like, you do a lot for us. But it's like, it's my choice though. Like, I'm doing it happily. You know what I mean? Like, no problem. I got you. But other than that, everybody else that want to pull me left and right, no. And that's the other thing. Like, when you're a people pleaser, you're not comfortable saying no. You really aren't. And it's even harder when it's a significant other, because they can get mad and salty and so on and so forth. When it comes to that, you really have to have more tact when it comes to saying no to a significant other, things like that. You have to learn there's a give and take, and you guys have to come to a compromise. It's a little bit more fragile and gentle, but that doesn't mean that you don't get to have your own level of peace and do things that you want to do instead of feeling like you're forced to do them. Like, I don't think that's okay just because you're with a significant other. I remember I don't know why I bring it up, but it just made me laugh because the very first time that I said no to that ex, he was not happy, but I was at the end of it. Like, I was literally at the end. I've always said yes to every single time, but this time I was like, I'm fed up, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm done. The answer is no. Did not like it, but again, I was at the end. There's a difference. Like, I didn't care how he felt, okay? So it was different. It's super important to pay attention whether or not you're a people pleaser, and it's not easy because sometimes we don't know. Like I said in the beginning, I did not know that I was a people pleaser, but I do know that I was taken advantage of on multiple occasions by people the closest to me. And it wasn't until I woke up to that reality that, oh shoot, I'm a people pleaser. And I started to dig deep, work on myself. I started to, when I tell you, go through the traumas. You got to go through things. In order to heal, in order to become the best version of yourself, you have to dig up the things that are stopping you from becoming that. Because if you don't let go of the old, you cannot get to the new. There is no way around it. I don't care what you think as far as you will figure it out. It ain't gonna work. Why? Because it's energy. Energy is harbored in you. All those traumas, all those things that you're holding on to. It's energy. How can you expect new to evolve if you're holding on to the old? You have to let it go, which means you have to do the work. You have to do the inner work, and you have to self-love. I think for me, like that was the pinnacle point of really understanding why it was important for me to say no, why it was super important to not people please anymore. And that was when I started to make room and took all my energy back from every single person that I have given it to. And I started to apply all of that energy to me, myself, and I. Whew. It's like you have breakthrough moments of realizing I have been missing out on so much because I have not loved myself this much. I was going to say before, but sometimes it feels like never. I've never loved myself this much before. You know what I mean? Like, it really gets that deep. And once you start to love yourself and give yourself all that energy back and start to pour into yourself, it gets so much easier to say no. Because you start to realize that people will pull you thin if you don't. You start to realize that by saying yes to things that do not serve you, your energy is going to be wasted and you won't have time for yourself. And you start to realize that this ain't going to work. So something's got to give. So eventually you start to prioritize anything that you do give of yourself because it's going to be a sacrifice of you. It really is that simple, quite honestly. But I definitely got out of my own way. I was my own freaking worst enemy. And I'm so happy that I realized at the perfect time. Sometimes you might say, I wish it happened then. But for me, I feel like this is perfect timing because I'm so ready. I've been built for this moment. You know, everything I've gone through was a lesson. Everything I've experienced had taught me something, had built something on top of the other in order for me to have this level of callous, you know what I mean? Of toughness that nothing can penetrate it. I had to have gone through all of those things just for me to get here, knowing and realizing that my armor is impenetrable when it comes to me. Like, I love me so much. I do anything for me, you know? Like, it really gets that deep. And I just hope that you guys get to the point where sometimes you realize that it's not everyone else that's your worst enemy. It can just sometimes be yourself, and you have to dig deep and figure out what those things are. And a great starting point will be to start saying no as often as you can. By Cal Cease. Yes, the Illusion of Money by Cal Cease. I believe that's what it is. If I was you, I would get that book and start living in your tens. Okay? Live in your tens, and I promise you, every day will feel like a wonderful freaking day. Because, I mean, think about it. If you're doing everything that feel like a 10, how can anything feel like a 1? It don't get any simpler than that. This was quick and easy, but I hope this helps somebody. Please let me know down in the comments. I will be back. Other than that, you guys, no more people pleasing. Say no, and I will see you next time. Bye.